California dreaming. A Los Angeles college football program comes out with a win, and it's not the win that you think. UCLA beats Rutgers in Piscataway 35-32. Does Coach Schiano have his Robert Saleh moment? Let's get to it. All right, enough of the puff. Let's get to it. Rutgers, a second consecutive embarrassing home loss, 35-32 against UCLA. Yeah, it's embarrassing. We didn't lose by 35 points like we did against Wisconsin, who was an underdog, just like UCLA was a 4.5-point underdog. Started off 6.5, 7-point underdog, but the odds make us sore. Wow, what was coming down the pike. UCLA in control of the whole game. What started off as a really good day, homecoming, yellow lot packed. Tables, parties going on everywhere. Everybody's in a good mood. It was a pretty good turnout, I have to say. I don't know what the announced attendance was, but the upper deck was more full this week than it was for the more important game last week against Wisconsin. Spectacular weather. Could have been a really good day. Once again, which has become the norm, watching Rutgers football. Just another disappointing day. $30 for parking. Takes forever to get into the lot. Another half hour commuting time on the buses there and back. Waiting around, standing around. To yet again lose to a Big Ten team that quite frankly had one of the worst offenses in the country, and you just knew that they were going to get well against us. You just saw it coming. Coach after the game, a little bit defiant, a little bit chippy. He took responsibility, as he usually does. This is my fault. I'm the leader of the program. We're going to figure it out. It's on the coaching staff. We got to coach better. I'm getting tired of hearing that because the results are the same. In the post-game press conference, coach is getting defiant. I get it. You lost. You're kind of pissed. So are we. Let's spend a lot of time and really good money and doing stuff like this to support the program. Said it was election season. Make your choice. Call your shot. We'll see how it winds up. In other words, he had his Robert Saleh moments, and he's taking receipts. Coach, it's the same team year in and year out. Whether it's Greg Schiano 1, Greg Schiano 2, we just can't escape the inevitable results. And I like Coach Schiano a lot. Right guy for the program. Him and Coach Peichel, good faces of the major sports of football and basketball. Good guys, go about their business the right way. They're not going to embarrass you off the field. They're smart guys. We're doing our midseason swan. That's dive. Year in, year out. After another bad call that he was asked about in the post-game press conference. Goes into the spiel about how they have advanced analytic guys. And they figure out what the math is over the time period of a game. When to go. Want to make your call as a head coach and decide to go for 2 points. Talked about this every week. Situational football is poor, and it's still poor. It's the beginning of the third quarter. I don't care what the analytics said. Yes, you are chasing points, despite you saying this is just like what journalists write about. You're chasing points. I said it in the stands. And sure enough, we get down to, it's the fourth quarter, we're down by 3. Ethan doesn't turn that ball over, throw an interception. We're down by 2. We have an opportunity for field goal. There it is. It's way too early. Advanced Analytics said our offensive line was ranked 108th last year. Do we really believe our offensive line was 108th in pass protection with 11 sacks, 12 sacks, whatever it was? Advanced Analytics guys are very much like head coaches or coaches in general that can't see the forest through the trees. We have to look at how we go about our business and how we do in those situations over time. And we're not great in those situations. We're just not. Bad timeout management again today. Nonetheless, Coach says it's just math. Here's some math for you, Coach. We're 9-30 against the Big Ten. And I'm getting agitated. There's going to be a lot less bourbon or whiskey in this bottle. Jack Daniels, single barrel proof, comes in at just under 130 proof. We're going to need every percentage of that alcohol with this team. Nine and 30 against Big Ten teams. Have we beat anybody good? Michigan State, who, by the way, was the last team on our schedule that you think, okay, we have a pretty good shot, it'll be close. We always play close against Michigan State. They beat Iowa. A week after Iowa pounds Washington. Are we going to beat Michigan State? Here's more math, Coach. Indiana is 7-0. They beat Nebraska 52-7. With a first-year coach and 13 transfers from James Madison. Yes, they're the real deal. Schedule is going to ramp up a little bit, but I'd rather be 7-0. The math is it's better to be 7-0 than 4-3. Here's more math. Illinois beats Michigan 21-7. Brett Bielema's turning that program around. They're 6-1. And the one that pisses me off the most, because we know what's going to happen next week when we go into USC. We're going to talk about cross country, long flight, jet lag, blah, 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 blah. Maryland pulls out last minute 29-28 victory against USC. USC is 3-4. We know what's going to happen. They're going to be 4-4 and run us out of the building next week. That's just how it rolls. Yes, Coach. I'm calling my shot. Our ceiling and our floor has collapsed. I said this all week. There's not a single team on this schedule that we could say, yeah, you know what? We got this. Calling my shot again, because we don't. What a waste of a lot of energy, hype, excitement, time, money to go 6-6. We might not even go 6-6. Who knows with these toss-up games? The delusional potential for 12-0 because we had a weak schedule, Rutgers weak schedule. Yeah, all right, maybe not 12-0, 10-2, right? You knew there was going to be a bunch of these toss-up games that we just weren't going to show up. We weren't going to play well. That's who we are. And let's be honest. Even during Greg Schiano won, we never beat Miami, Virginia Tech, and West Virginia. We should have beat West Virginia that one game and dropped sure touchdown in the end zone. Should have pulled that one out, didn't. I'm tired of watching Indiana be 7-0. I'm tired of watching BYU or Utah with no geographic recruiting advantages be ranked. SMU ranked. Army ranked. Navy's probably going to be ranked after yesterday. It's really frustrating leaving that stadium. I'm tired of Can we not play Akron or Howard or Wagner? It doesn't do us any good. We get it. You're trying to build some momentum, get some wins, get some confidence, but you're just losing to the good teams anyway. Our best Big Ten win is against a 3-3 Washington team that ran the ball up and down the field on us for over 500 yards. What'd they have, 551 yards? That's our best win. And I had to hold on for dear life. Pat Lanny at Rutgers at NewJersey.com had it right. We never distinguish ourselves and separate ourselves from our competition. We just never get that win that's a resounding win against good teams or conference teams. We just don't. It's not who we are. So when Coach says call your shot, we're calling our shot because there's a big body of work to draw from. And it's the same issues. Game to game, week to week, year in, year out. Said it last week, calling another shot. We're just not a Big Ten program. We've said a bunch of times how at the beginning of the year with the increased recruiting and spotlight and hype that we and size that we finally got Big Ten depth. Somebody goes down, we don't have to have the whole season collapse because the offensive lineman goes down. Quarterbacks running for their lives. Yeah, again, we had some bad injury luck. You know, New York area teams, Jets, Giants, Rutgers, have terrible injury luck. You know, once again, we kind of followed the Jets' lead. We can't play a whole game. We can't play complimentary football for a whole game. God forbid. Defense that was supposed to be good, just giving up chunks. UCLA was one of the worst offenses in the country by all the metrics. Yards per game, 252.7, 131st. 59.5 yards rushing per game, 132nd. Passing game, 193 yards per game, 89th. Third down conversions on offense, 33%. We're just terrible. Scoring, 14 points per game before yesterday, 130-something. Indiana rose up like 550 yards against Nebraska, who some said was now the number one defense. We had like 250 yards, 7 points. What was the math in the Virginia Tech game when we kept, I think it was Virginia Tech, where we kept chasing 2-point conversions? I mean, it never works out. UCLA had 480 yards, 478 yards, almost 500 yards of offense out of 3 times in the past 4 games. Washington, Wisconsin, UCLA. Let's get to it. Again, some things that said, I'm getting really frustrated because I see and I just watch the games on a big screen and say, okay, this is what we're going to have to do. I'm not an analyst. I'm an alum, a fan, been going to Rutgers games, even with my father back in the early 70s when we're playing Bucknell, Lehigh, Colgate, Holy Cross, Army, Princeton, NYU. Yes, NYU had a football team. Quite frankly, Coach, we should be in a league with your alma mater. I wouldn't mind getting good wins against Bucknell, Princeton. It's better than watching us get pounded by Big Ten teams week in, week out, year in, year out. It'd be more fun. Yeah, you go 10-0. 11-0. I remember sitting in Giant Stadium, 1976. Go 11-0 to beat Colgate. What was it, 17-9, whatever it was. I'd rather have a team like that and then get invited to go to a good bowl game and knock off a good team. So than go through this nonsense year in and year out. Said, having watched UCLA, that Garbers loves to throw a lot of simple passes, screen passes, little ends, wheel route, wide receiver screens, tight end. They just killed us on every one of those plays yesterday, all day long. Here's what I said. Rutgers defense better be ready, because if you want to get your pass rush better and you nearly get to the quarterback and don't get to them, they're going to screen pass us to death. Whether the wide receiver or to the running backs, and we're interesting about the running backs in a second. Garber seems to do well under duress, pushed out of the pocket, and they get yards running screen passes and get first downs. I'm going to have nightmares worrying about that, where we stop them on first and second down in the running games, third down, you think you got the momentum going, bang. You just missed getting the sack, and we had one of those yesterday. Wrapped all around the quarterback, big third down, still when we were in the game. Could have stopped further momentum for Wisconsin. Sitting in the stand saying, oh man, we just missed. Can't have anything like that against Garbers. They will throw the simple patterns and they'll move the ball down the field that way. Now, the secondary is going to have to play better. Even in games that we were winning, we saw this against Virginia Tech, saw it against Washington. This is just what receivers just wide open all over the place. I don't know what the problem is. I'm guessing it's personnel, and against Wisconsin, it was shuttling guys in and out, and so there you have it. Every time Garbers moved out of the pocket, was going to throw a screen pass. It was always there for them, and they made some big plays on it, including a little wheel route. Wide guy, at the post-game press conference, coach was asked, busted coverage. He's like, no, they were on it. The guy just didn't make the play. I don't know about that. But another thing that I went through in the preview that I've been watching, even in games that we won, wide receivers open all day long. Every time Garbers or any quarterback lock on Wisconsin steps back, you just knew they were going to make the third down, even if there was pressure. Guys are wide open. What are we doing? Garber, 32 for 38, 383 yards. With those passes that I talked about all week. Also said, if every week, got to get pressure, got to get sacks, get in the face, knock him around, throw him off his game. He threw in 3 interceptions against Minnesota. So if you flushed him out of the pocket and the receiver was double covered, he'd throw it in there to try and make a play. He had 9 interceptions this year. Not enough pressure. Just like Mike from Night Report said. Although I have to say, we did have sporadic pressure. There were several times where we got there, and once again, out of our grasp. Just couldn't quite make the play. And, of course, complete the play for third down conversions. I think we did have 3 sacks. Keontae Hamilton, 1.5. Jordan Thompson, half a sack. Abram Wright, a sack. I think one of them was kind of like on a critical third down. So you might get some momentum back, but didn't work out that way. No interceptions. No fumble recoveries. We needed to turn the ball over, so that was another thing that we talked about. Garber's dropping back 38 times. Get some kind of turnover. I mean, Joe Harris-Simiak, probably not on the hot seat, but it shouldn't be something that we can't talk about his seat being warm, because this defense is just bad. We held 95 yards rushing. We talked about the other thing that we had to do a good job with and didn't, that we talked about in the preview, is that UCLA running backs are used in the passing game. TJ Harden's their leading receiver. Running backs yesterday. Keegan Jones, 5 catches, 114 yards, 22.8 per catch. A long of 67 and a touchdown. TJ Harden, 5 catches, 34 yards and a touchdown. Jalen Berger, 1 catch, 9 yards, and yes, it was a touchdown. The tight end, Motabo, 6 catches, 104 yards, 14.3, long of 25. That's how you use a tight end. 17 yards a catch, 6 catches, 104 yards, game changer. Especially on third down. And then speaking of which, another area that we talked about that we needed to do well in was third down conversions on offense and defense. UCLA among the worst in the country on both. 33% third down conversion rate. Until yesterday. Everybody gets well against Rutgers. 7 for 13. It's like 55, 56%. Now Rutgers, we're 6 for 30 the past few weeks, 20%. 4 for 9 yesterday, 44%. First downs were kind of even, 24 each. Time of possession, though, kind of knew that because UCLA was kind of controlling the game through the passing game. 35-plus minutes for UCLA. 24 for Rutgers. One of the things, now there were a couple things that we did well that I said we needed to do well if we were going to stand a chance to have success, and we did do them. But the tone of this video is we did another bad job, and whether or not we're able to build on these positive things going forward remains to be seen, because we just can't put it all together. Our execution's terrible. Nonetheless, you said Ethan had to have, after 2 terrible weeks, 15 of 37 interception against Nebraska, 12 of 32. Interception against Wisconsin. Had to have a bounce back. Ethan managed the game, be efficient, be accurate, be effective kind of game, and he did. 18 to 30, 287 yards, an interception, no touchdowns. One of the things that we hadn't been doing, I've been saying for a couple of weeks, we need to do more with Ethan is on designed runs, or he takes off more in those situations where they're going to be keying on Kyle, and he had some good runs yesterday. Now, the stats say only 9 for 23, but the sacks come off rushing yardage. I want to say he had 3 or 4 really good runs, designed runs, escape out of the pocket. The conventional wisdom was like the Jets. If we only had a quarterback, this defense, this running game, special teams takes us to the next level. And we're the same team. I might have to owe an apology to PFF, because they call at the beginning of the year when people say, no, can Rutgers go undefeated with a weak schedule? PFF is like, no, 6-6. Same team. Now, they get lucky every once in a while, too, because they're just wrong an awful lot. But nonetheless. Also said, here's another thing that I guess we kind of got better in the running game. Kyle bounced back. We had 135 yards rushing. That's okay. Against the pretty good rush defense in UCLA. 135 yards. Not where, I mean, if we want to be successful, we want to have that 200 yards rushing. Kyle, and let me say this about Kyle. He had 19 rushes, 106 yards, 5.6 per carry, a long of 30, 3 touchdowns. Got off to a slow start. That first series on offense for us, we looked kind of choppy. We came out aggressive. Love that. Threw a pass, incomplete. Kyle, and then third down, and we'll talk about that in the third down pass. We'll talk about that pass in a second. Kyle got nailed right before the end of the first half. Got up, walked him off the field. Second half starts. He's on the bench. You're like, uh-oh, Antoine Raymond's going to have to carry the load. Not only did Kyle come back in on the second play, he picked up some steam, and he did his damage in the second half. So first half, a little bit of a slow start. He had one really good run that I remember. 1,906, 5.6 yards per carry. We needed to get more of that out of the running game and out of Kyle. So we did okay there. With Kyle and Ethan, we did well enough to win. Here's another area, a third thing actually, that's kind of positive. Talked about this. We should never have to talk about this being the key to victory if you're a FBS football team or in the NFL. Catch the damn ball. And the receivers caught the damn ball yesterday. Ian Strong talked about that first series. Looked like it was going to be a choppy series. We came out. We tried to throw. We tried to run it to Kyle. We didn't. Again, the sequencing, the fluidity wasn't there. Ethan steps back, throws a ball deep downfield along the sideline, and it looked like he was just trying to get it out into a spot where it couldn't be intercepted. Ian Strong runs through the pattern. This is what you do, receivers. Run through the pattern, run underneath the ball, catches it, one-hands it, spins around, falls on the ground, catches it with one hand. Spectacular play. 42 yards. He had a good game. 3 catches, 71 yards, almost 24 yards a catch. KJ Tuff, 3 catches, 82 yards, 27.3 per catch, 59-yard catch late in the game. Thymere, love seeing this more in the game early on. 5 catches, 70 yards, 14 per catch. Usually averages around 18, 19. Except last week when he was like 4 for 16. None of those plays, those quick outs underneath where he comes up a yard short. He was open and making catches. Christian Dremel, 3 catches, 26. Guess they put him in there because they figured out, hey, we need some guys that can catch the ball. He had a key first down. Chris Long, 1 for 18, and then Ben Black, 2 for 16. So the receivers did their job, caught the ball. So we got 3 things there that we did well that was significant, that we're going to have to do if we were going to have some success. And then some things that we just didn't do, and it was a reason that we lost. The defensive pressure, like I said, was sporadic. I don't know how, or, we've talked about how, and coaches talked about complementary football. Somebody on the night report yesterday said, coach coaches a game like he has an elite defense, and it's absolutely true. Coach, this is not the 85 Bears. This is not the 86 Giants. This isn't some of those, the late 90s, early 2000 Miami teams, 99, 2000, 2001, what elite defense. One of them you were a defensive coordinator on, which is why I thought you should have been the guy to get the job at the program back then. We had problems on defense back then more than offense. So when you're on offense and you're trying to run the ball, chew up clock, play complement, but you have to have an actual really good defense to play like that. Open it up a little on offense. Forget about how you want to play philosophically in your mind. Let us use our playmakers. Kirk Hackett for 1 week is not Kirk Hackett. Let Kirk Shiraka open it up. Ethan is quite capable of running an wide open, spread out passing game. Simple passes, please. We get screen passed to death, and I knew it was going to happen yesterday. I sat there in the stands, section 124. Here it comes again. Boom. Successful every time. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be tricky or cute. Simplicity in a passing game that allows you to run off the pass. That's right, run off the pass. And you give those little delayed handoffs to Kyle up the middle. Or out to the edge. Let him get us 7-8 yards. That's how we want to do it. It might not feel comfortably, philosophically playing complimentary football. We want to run it and then we're going to get back on. We're not that team. We just aren't. Those guys on the night report had it right. I mean, the tight end and running backs were killing us yesterday. I don't know what I don't know how you scheme. Honestly, I don't know how we're going to, scheme a smoke and mirrors kind of defense. But it was just really obvious yesterday that no one was setting it. I mean, where are our linebackers? Defensive ends. I mean, no one's setting the edge. So, yesterday we said, and a lot of people said the same thing, and actually the Rutgers journalistic podcast community, we're all on the same page going into the game. That this is the game of the year. This is the game of the year, not because it's homecoming, but it was a winnable game that we needed to win against the Big Ten team before we go into USC. We needed to get that fifth win because those toss-up games down the stretch, yes, with our injuries, yes, with how we play historically, a bowl game wasn't a guarantee. And plus, it was going to set the tone. Football is an emotional game, psychological. It's going to set the psychological tone the rest of the way, not just for the teams, but the fans, the people who are invested in this program. And we laid another egg at home. I mean, the one that can continue spending that kind of money year in and year out to just lose to good teams. Honestly, I don't even care about it. What did we score a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago on Wagner? 66 points, big deal. Several years ago, I remember when Coach talking about, my thing is, when you watch other teams that don't have our talent, their recruiting classes are ranked in the 70s over the years, and they somehow can scheme their way to playing well. To kind of camouflage the fact that they don't have elite talent. Mike was talking yesterday on the night report how it is 3 components, scheme, coaching, and players, but you can scheme in such a way where it's not such work to move the ball. Make things easy. Simplify the offense. Open it up. Don't be tense. Now, yesterday we did a better job, and let's give the props where they're due. When we came out in the second half, that's exactly what we needed to do. And I actually said this in a preview because it's outside our personality. We're always going to play conservatively. We came out throwing. Hit some quick slants. Completed some passes. Guys caught the ball. Get it back to Kyle. He's getting some good yards. Boom, boom, boom. Right down the field. You let the pass game set the tone and set up the running game. That's how we should play it. It's modern football, but not just because that's how the game is played. It's because it could work. Those RPO delayed handoffs that take a year and a half to develop. Yeah, Kyle's great, but it's too predictable. They're ready for it. We talked about this. Shooting the gap. Keep the defenses off balance, and we can do a better job of that by making for a more prolific. I mean, you look at Indiana. They run a Big 12, Pac-12 kind of offense. They're averaging over 500 yards per game, but they also lead the Big Ten in rushing over 200 yards per game. It can be done, and if you can do it with James Madison plays, surely we can do it with the talent that we have. It's not just about culture and mental toughness and all the esoteric, intangible nonsense. You actually have to draw it up correctly. It's enough to make you want to hit the whiskey bottle. Jack Daniels, single barrel Valper, really good. If you see some store pick it up. Next week is an important game. It's the gateway to the second half of the season. Because right now, a loss to USC would be kind of daunting. It doesn't look like we're going to beat Michigan State. Probably not going to beat Minnesota. Maryland, who I thought after their 37-10 loss to Northwestern, thought we had opportunities to finally close out a year against them in good shape. They beat USC. Don't even know what to say anymore. Buddies that we have season ticket with, we can't go through this all the time. I mean, if they lose and look bad against USC, do we even want to go back to the stadium to watch the last couple games of the year? And it's disappointing because it's usually when my birthday is down the stretch in football season, and I'd like for once to have a happy birthday, but don't ask for much. A Rutgers win around birthday time would be nice, but it just doesn't work out that way. I don't have confidence in this defense or coaching staff to be able to, I'm not even going to say stop Moss, stop USC's offensive attack. If you could keep it in front of you, let them get some yards and keep them out of the red zone. But it just seems that big play after big play after big play is given up by the defense. And as Coach said yesterday, and the podcast said yesterday, 223 yards after the catch. The tackling, again, terrible. That quarterback, Garber, ran it for 60 yards, whatever it was. We missed some tackles there. In the running game, we missed some tackles, could have stopped on third down. Passing game, those screen passes, for sure, missing tackles. This combination of bad situational football, bad fundamentals, not being able to catch footballs, make tackles, scheme and offense and a defense that kind of work together well, and a style that works for us, not one that we want to do just because that's what we want to do. We want to play Northeast football, run the ball, and play defense. The old days of 3 yards in a cloud of dust with Michigan, Ohio State are over. Now, Michigan's still kind of playing that way, and you see what's happening to them. What are they now, 3-3? They're just an average program. Played well defensively. Luke Altmaier had, 80 yards passing yesterday? But they lost 21-7. I don't even know what to say anymore. I don't have the answers. I do know what it is that we're seeing, and we're seeing these patterns repeated week after week, year after year. Best coach making our call. This team is not who we thought they were. Now, you can't, if the coaching staff could miraculously, team gets healthy, find some guys that they put in the right spot, they could make some plays, turn things around, and we go on a run. Hey, if we went on a run and finished 5-0 and we get to that 93 spot that we thought was reasonable expectation, it's not against the law to beat your peers and have a game where you beat a Big Ten team like Minnesota, UCLA, Michigan State. It's okay to win by 10, 13, 14, 17 points. Everybody seems to have those games except us. Michigan State beats Iowa. Team that was struggling on offense. Aiden Childs was struggling. They play okay defensively. Nuh-uh. For some reason, that doesn't happen to us. I'll say right now, if this team doesn't go out and win 4 of the last 5 and get to 8-4, which it was a perfectly reasonable, logical result for this team going into this season, with the quarterback, with the recruiting classes, another year in the offense, returning upperclassmen on defense, 8-4 and winning a handful of toss-up games was a perfectly reasonable expectation. To me, if we don't go 4-1 down the stretch, and I don't care how it shakes out, who you beat, who you lose to, it's the loss of a season. We're going to go 6-6 again, and I guess we can't go to Pinstripe Bowl again. We're going to play in some December 15th bowl game. It's not about doing just well enough. It's about taking the next step that other programs all seem to be able to do. Call on our shot coach. It's up to you guys to figure it out. I'm tired of figuring out, putting out my keys to success every weekend. We don't do it and we lose. And I'm just a guy, I'm just an alum who's been going to Rutgers games since I was a kid in the early 70s. We got the quarterback, like the Jets. Hey, our problems are solved, right? Stop watching Jet films. Stop watching Jet games. Everybody enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy your week. We'll have a USC preview coming up, maybe a Big Ten preview and review. Enjoy the week, everybody, and we will see you the next time.